Conversations at the Crossroads. Chapter 1. The Bench at Riverwalk. Theme. Is God violent and inconsistent? The sun was lowering, bleeding gold and crimson into the surface of the river. At Riverwalk Park, the city's noise faded into the background, replaced by the quiet rhythm of water against the rocks and the rustling of summer leaves. Daniel sat on the old iron bench near the river's edge, Bible in hand, open but not reading yet. He liked to arrive early. The bench had become a kind of meeting place, no sermons, no crowds, just honest conversations with anyone willing to talk. Today, it was Alex. Still carrying that book around? Alex asked with a smirk, his shoulder-length hair tied back and a worn leather notebook in his hand. Everywhere, Daniel said, smiling. You brought yours too. Alex chuckled, flipping his notebook open. Yeah, but mine's full of questions, not answers. That's a good start, Daniel said, scooting over. They sat in silence for a moment, watching the water pass like time itself, steady, inevitable, and deep. I was reading 1 Samuel chapter 15 this morning, Alex said abruptly. God tells Saul to wipe out the Amalekites. Men, women, even children. Not one left alive. Is that really the God you believe in? Daniel's eyes didn't flinch. He'd expected this question eventually. I do believe in him. And I understand why that passage is hard. It's not the kind of verse you post on a coffee mug. Hard. Alex shook his head. It's appalling. You Christians talk about God being love, but that sounds like divine genocide. Daniel leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. Let me ask you something. Do you think justice is ever necessary? Of course, Alex said. But that's not justice. That's slaughter. Daniel nodded. It looks that way when read in isolation. But let's talk context. The Amalekites weren't innocent. They attacked Israel from behind during the Exodus, targeting the weak and the elderly. He flipped to Deuteronomy chapter 25 verses 17 through 19 and handed it to Alex. God said their evil would be judged in due time. And that time had come. Alex read the verse, frowning. But, why the kids? Daniel sighed. It's devastating. But remember, this was war in a fallen world, not random rage. And we're not God, we don't see the end from the beginning. Judgment is his, not ours. And he's patient, he gave them centuries to change. Nice theological gymnastics, Alex muttered. No gymnastics, Daniel said quietly. Honesty. Look, even in judgment, God's heart is revealed. Ezekiel chapter 33 verse 11. I take no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but rather that they turn from their ways and live. He gives space to repent, even when they don't. Alex sat back, tapping his fingers against the notebook. Okay. But doesn't that contradict what Jesus taught? He said to love your enemies. That sounds like a different God altogether. Daniel smiled, not condescendingly, but with the warmth of someone who has walked the same trail. It sounds like a contradiction, but it's a progression. Jesus didn't erase the Old Testament, he fulfilled it. Matthew chapter 5 verse 17. Same God. Different covenant. The wrath poured out on enemies in the Old was later poured out on himself at the cross. Alex's brow furrowed. You're saying Jesus took the punishment? Yes. Daniel turned to Romans chapter 5 verse 8 and handed it over. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. He didn't ignore justice, he satisfied it. Alex read the verse, then looked up. It still feels like a cover-up. Daniel shook his head. No, Alex. It's a rescue plan. You're not the first to wrestle with this. Job, David, Habakkuk, they all cried out, God, why? But they kept seeking him. The problem isn't God's morality, it's our understanding of justice. He paused. Isaiah chapter 55 verses 8 and 9 says, For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways. Alex leaned back, staring out over the water. You're really okay with all this? Daniel nodded. I'm not okay with evil. I'm okay with a God who confronts it. Who judges sin and offers mercy. That tension makes the gospel what it is. And you think he cares? I know he does. Daniel's voice softened. Because he didn't stay distant. He stepped into history. Into our mess. Not as a tyrant, but as a servant. That cross was God's justice and mercy colliding. And it changed everything. They sat there a while longer. The sun dipped below the horizon, shadows stretching across the path. A jogger passed. A duck called in the distance. Alex closed his notebook. You haven't convinced me yet, he said. I'm not trying to, Daniel replied, smiling. But I do hope that you keep asking questions. As they stood, shaking hands in mutual respect, Alex says, you know what, I just might.